real quickly, let's look at this chorale that's on these boards here. You can tell that we're in C major, obviously, but let's just real quickly talk about the harmony here. So we start off with a pretty straightforward harmony in the first measure. What would that be? 1. And then keeping in mind here that we're going to go forward in time from the beginning with privileging motion that has common tones in it and try to move as smoothly as possible. What chord do you get next? 4/6. Yes. And looking through here, always good to see, do you see any problematic parallels? Are tendency tones resolving normally? Looking good? All right, good. So let's see. Since we need to be able to hear it, and it's good to get it in your heads. The basses in the room, besides me, raise your hand. We have a good amount. Good. Okay, tenors. Good. Okay, altos. And then sopranos. And we'll get started together. Ready? One, two, one, go. Good. Okay, so let's make a couple quick changes in here. The first thing I'm going to do is change up the alto part a little bit. Just a slight change. Instead of going directly to F, I will have you delay your motion to F and hold over the G a little bit. Basses, we will also do a similar change. Instead of going directly to G here, let's hold off and move down a little later. Then tenors, you also get the opportunity to engage in this change up with holding over your C a bit longer here towards the end, and then moving towards that all-important leading tone a little later. And then finally, I'm sorry, sopranos, but altos you get on, and you'll move down a little bit later. So just a couple quick changes there. Let's sing this version. One, two, and one, and we've kind of taken the basic structure of this chorale and elaborated it a little bit here. You notice too that these additions here could basically have 3 parts to them. First, they are prepared. Then there's the actual non-chord tone itself, and then the resolution. Now these are, of course, what kind of non-chord tone? Suspensions. Yeah, each of them are suspensions. And you can see that the 3-part structure also involves not just a preparation, not just something that doesn't belong in the chord. These notes do not belong here, but they also resolve down by step in each case. There must be a suspension in that regard. Let's label it. Remember, with suspensions, it's always important to keep in mind you're going to be labeling them in relation to the bass note. So in our 4/6 chord, we know we have F, we have A, and we have C, but the G doesn't belong. It's not a chord tone. What's the distance from A up to G? 7. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 7. And then the distance from A up to its resolution F. 6. There you go. And, okay, what about this one? This one seems to be an interesting case because the suspension itself is happening in the bass as well. So you have a 5/7 chord, G, B, D, F, but the non-chord tone is the A. What kind of label then would you have to give this particular suspension? 2/3, exactly. Exactly right here. 2/3. And so why the increase in numbers? It seems like most of our suspensions we're going to find have a number and then that number minus 1 following. Why do these get bigger? Yeah, it's all relative to that base. This is where we're measuring everything from. And the real dissonance is happening between A and B right here, which is a whole step or a second. And then when it resolves down, it goes to a third. So this would be a 2/3. This one also has a nickname attached to it. What would that be? It's also called like a bass suspension, the 2/3 bass suspension. Those terms get put together. But I'll be asking you to put these labels here. All right, just a couple more. This one. What label will we give to this suspension? Yeah, this would give this a 4 and 3 above the bass. And then finally, this one in the alto voice. 9, 2. Let's actually look at real work and see these suspensions in action and practice labeling them. Here we go, right about here. All right, so let's go back, and for now, we can look at this passage, not so much in terms of labeling harmony. We're mostly concerned about the intervals above the bass and how the voice leading is working out here. So let's start with the first measure here. And going from that pickup measure, and to the first one. What we're keeping an eye out for is this same kind of notion. A non-chord tone that is held over and then resolves down. Do you see one here? Yeah, which voice exactly? Yeah, the alto is kind of leading us in here. So, okay. Let's look at the actual harmony that we're dealing with in, say, the first half of this measure. Knowing that you are in F minor, what harmony is that exactly? 1/6, exactly, yeah. I'd say 1/6 chord. So here you have moving downward there into the chord. So what kind of suspension is this? Yeah, 7/6, because it lies a seventh above the base and then resolves down to 6. All right, I'll give you a hint. There's another one in the same measure. And the soprano voice, looking above that, you don't even have to know the chord really here. What kind of suspension do you have there? Yeah, it's a 4/3. So you could just write in 4/3. There is yet another one. But I'm going to point out to you, in terms of the score, that it's in the tenor voice. I'll give you that much of a hint here because it's not clear with the piano reduction. So considering the tenor and the bass, what kind of suspension do you have on your hands? 9/8, good. What about the fact that the bass leaps up an octave? Does that change anything? Should we call it 9/1? No, or no, because actually it's still an octave apart. But yeah, no, it doesn't change. It's still the same chord that you're dealing with there. So that would be a 9/8. Interesting passage happens in the first half of the last measure there. Keep in mind your key signature. You can't see it here, but it's got an F minor key signature going on here. Look at the bass and then what happens above it. What does it appear that you actually have on your hands for this example? Yeah, so sorry, I heard someone hesitantly say 9/8, right? Yeah, it looks like there appear to be 2 of them on your hand. And in terms of the alto voice with the A going down to G, it looks like you have a 9/8. And then in the tenor voice, it looks like you have a 4/3. They are paired up there. But even in terms of what you know about voice leading, that's totally fine because you have some nice parallel thirds moving in motion together. In fact, what does that kind of remind you of here? What kind of cadential motion does that remind you of? Like a 6/4 chord, yeah, when you have 2 things paired up. Now, 6/4 chords don't always have the preparation in the same way that this particular one has those 2 notes tied over, but nonetheless, they're still considered to be this sort of tonic-like suspension that then resolves down by step into the actual chord, paired up together in nice parallel thirds. Parallel thirds are great. Okay, so there is one more on the bottom half, but in the interest of time, let's look at the ones we have here. So we have everything except a nice bass suspension. And there's something else that's interesting about suspensions here and how they work. Keep in mind too that they're the only kind of non-chord tone, along with the more rarely seen retardation, that is held over. So that's going to be the thing that really signals you have a suspension or retardation on your hands. And then they move down. And you can see that this whole kind of gravitational metaphor we take for granted is at work here. For example, especially in a minor key, when you're in F minor like this, you have a lot of downward tendencies. For example, in F minor, scale degree 6, D flat really wants to come back down to C. We also talk about melodic minor in terms of just the minor mode, how you have to actually change something in key signature to get La instead of lay, to go up to T and Do. But more typically, if you're starting on Do and moving downward, you're going to keep going down through the scale. That same gravitational pull is pulling everything back down towards the tonic there, this way. It's like there's a sort of metaphorical physical force acting on what we're hearing and pulling us downward. So especially when you get something really great, like those great 4/3 suspensions, especially when you're in major mode too, those are really nice because you have that nice half step motion there. And then the 7/6 one over here is great too, because you have that G natural moving down to the It's a real kind of like dissonant sound, and that resolution is all the more rewarding. And you can see it at work here. No wonder there are so many suspensions in this passage, given the subject matter, wounded, transgressions, bruised. Not exactly like the happiest passage you're going to hear all day. And I think Handel's really great at bringing out some of those expressive connotations with his use of suspensions there. So 9/8, 7/6, 4/3, and the bass suspension. Always measured from the bass up, and almost always put into compound measurement for the 9/8, but everything else reduced to simple intervals for the other suspensions there. Excellent. Any questions on what we've gone over with suspensions here? Excellent.